it didn't take long for me to realize that that was never going to really get me everywhere I wanted to go, because it was only one-sided. I wasn't getting a different perspective, and I wasn't being more open to the men in the industry who are also like, hey, I'll help you, but sometimes you just have to ask. And if you're not asking for those next steps and you're not asking to be challenged, then you're pretty much going to stay exactly where you are, because it's very rare for someone else to go, hey, let me just give you this opportunity. You're going to have to step up and put yourself out there and ask for those opportunities and potentially take on a little bit more than what your job is. And I'm not saying from the, toxic work environments where everything gets dumped on you. That's not what I'm talking about, but just asking for that next opportunity to challenge yourself. And so I think that finding those people is so key.
Oh my gosh, for sure. And I love, what you said, that not just focusing one side where you're comfortable, but also, asking for a different perspective, right, in businesses. It made me think of this hotel owner that I worked for here, actually, in Maryland. And I was so nervous every time that we had sales meetings, and that was a weekly basis. And he was in person every Friday. And one day he made a comment, and I quite didn't understand at the time, like, oh, how many companies you visited, this week. And, I need you to give me more, companies on the pipeline. Let's go. And I'm like, oh, I went to this event. And he's like, okay, what about the international department at this hospital? It was in Baltimore. So, Johns Hopkins was a big thing back then and still today. But, I was like, he was challenging me so much. And I was like, honestly, so nervous every time. But then, once I was able to show him, right, like, hey, this is the pipeline that I have, I'm improving. And it got to a point that our relationship grew, right, from junior salesperson to, today I call him, like literally I call him. He's like, Wilka, when you're coming for dinner, let's grab lunch, whenever you are in Baltimore, let's do something, because he wants to pick my brain. And it's so funny, like those connections, when you develop in the beginning and people see the potential in you, but they will push you, right, to be better. But I think, like back then at the time, again, I was a green, salesperson. I didn't really understand why he was so hard on me. And now, 15 years down the road, I see that, he respects my work, my abilities, right, in sales. And like, he sees that I've been in different markets. But, when I was in California, when we met, and I was like, okay, well, how can I get the ground running in this hotel? But also don't forget the basics, right? I think in hospitality, I think there is something, we are so focused in, getting the next contract, but then it got me to the back to basics in terms of, I was a manager, the first salesperson in that hotel, and I had to build, right, like my pipeline. So I was actually in every breakfast every day with, talking to guests, is why they were there, where they're coming from, oh, they were here for, a special, like in Santa Cruz, there was a lot of families going for, tournaments. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I would make my notes about the tournaments, contact the tournament lead. So it's like, do all of that research.
Right.
But, this basic stuff I've learned, when I was in my green days, right?
Right. And even as you develop your skills, every now and then you catch yourself and have to say, okay, back to those basics, back to the building the relationship and just simply getting to know people. Not everything has to be a sale. It could just be that you're building that relationship, and eventually it turns into a business relationship in a sale.